speaking of people that are going to get punished and probably already have by this point, Odell Beckham Jr. Did everything in his power to get away from from the Cleveland Browns. Well, maybe not everything in his power, but everything in Odell Beckham Sr.'s power to get away from the Cleveland Browns. Odell Beckham Sr. Had a video post of Baker Mayfield throwing the ball to multiple receivers on the Cleveland Browns. One of those people was not Odell Beckham Jr., and the video pointed out how many times Odell Beckham Jr. was wide open and Mayfield hadn't thrown to him. He also, I think, commented on another Instagram post calling Mayfield mediocre. Beckham Sr. responded, hashtag big facts. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. is not commenting on this at all, but you're not going to tell me that Odell Beckham Sr. is doing this without having talked to his son. Baker Mayfield was interviewed about this. As naturally, he wants his son to succeed. I can't blame him for that. I want Odell to succeed. That's where we're at, or at least I thought. He also says, I had conversations with his dad before, man-to-man, face-to-face, and I was pretty surprised by the video and the intentions and the feelings behind it. And he scoffed at the allegation. I would be lying if I said otherwise, he said he deliberately has not thrown Beckham's way this season. I have an interesting take on this, so I want you to go first.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham Jr. is what's going on right for him?
This is such a weird thing, right? First of all, I refuse to believe that I don't think Odell Beckham Sr. made the video, the 11-minute video or like whatever about his son getting open, solely because he's a dude. I looked at where he's from. He's from the state of Texas. And I don't think a dude from the heart of Texas football is going to make a highlight video using REM as the artist of choice for the soundtrack.
It's a very good point.
I think that may have been circulated by some Browns fan, and then he got wind of it, took it, uploaded it, whatever, or maybe he hired someone to do it. I don't know. That part was weird to me. The other part is I think Stefanski is somewhat to blame here because, and maybe it's Stefanski just working with what he has, but Baker, like if you look at a lot of these throws, Baker is doing a one read. There's no processing the field. There are simple play actions, or there are simple 3-4 step dropbacks, and then literally taking one read, and that's what he's essentially going with. That play that showed the tight end or Odell, I can't remember who essentially was being wide open and went viral on Twitter. That's one of the easiest ones to see where literally Baker's coming back. He's taking his first read. He's immediately going there, and he's not looking anywhere else in the field. He is staring it down heavily.
Yeah.
I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. is the guy that he was in New York.
Not at all.
But I don't think even the version of Odell we have now is a very good NFL receiver. Not a great receiver, but a very good NFL receiver. The Browns need to be spreading the ball around. They have an insane amount of weapons. A lot of people are at fault. Odell Beckham Sr., Baker, Stefanski, Odell, I'm sure to some point as well. But just let this man go somewhere else. If you're not going to use him and you're going to hold him as sort of a hostage in that offense and not let him get the ball at all, cut your losses. Let him go be somewhere else where he can go. Let him go back home to Louisiana and go to the Saints like it was rumored to.
This entire situation falls on the shoulders of one man, and that's Baker Mayfield. 100% Odell Beckham Sr. is right, and it's something that analysts have pointed out all year. Baker Mayfield has two reads, his first one and his check down. Baker Mayfield, and you can tell me about his injured non-throwing arm. You can tell me about his offensive line, who before the season was, Pro Football Focus, top 5. They've put everything around Baker Mayfield to succeed. They had Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, 2 pass-catching tight ends, 3 receivers, including a rookie, Adam Toshman. That is Toshman. I remember his last. Everyone knows the kid I'm talking about. All right, they have a very good defense. Okay, Odell Beckham Jr. has been open a lot, and because he plays on Baker's non-read side, he does the same thing Jalen Hurts does. People started playing Jalen Hurts to one side of the field because all Jalen Hurts does is look to his right. He never looks back to his left. It's insane. And I've been preaching that Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback, okay? I'm not going to say he's not a good quarterback. He has made plays happen. He is not a quarterback that's going to get you to the Super Bowl. He is not a quarterback that's going to get you into a deep playoff run. And he's not a quarterback that's going to give you any kind of consistency at the quarterback position. He is the problem in Cleveland. And I promise you, when year 4 comes around and that year 5 extension is up, he's not going to sign it because they're not going to throw money at him. They're going to move on. They have too much talent on that team for Baker Mayfield to be the reason. And Odell Beckham Sr., you know what he's doing? He's just shining light on the fact that Baker Mayfield has, maybe not willfully, but has ignored Odell Beckham Jr. on the field for the entirety of the time they have been together as a pairing. There's no reason Odell Beckham Jr. should have one target for 6 catches, or one target for 6 yards last week. Okay. He has been woefully underused. Okay. And I agree. I really hope he gets released. I hope he gets released by the Browns. I know apparently Stefanski was telling players today. The rumor is he's telling players to treat it like OBJ is no longer on this team. I hope they release him because he's going to sign with another team that's going to use him correctly. You know what? I would love to see Odell Beckham Jr. in the Ravens. I don't think it happens. I think he's too much of a distraction to be brought into an organization like that. But I'd love to see him on like a fringe playoff team really make an impact this year because that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think a team like Baltimore, I don't think he'd be a major distraction on Baltimore just because Baltimore is full of passionate people, right? Even your head coach is a passionate dude, and I think Odell would sort of be good with that. And I think it also gives you a huge weapon for Lamar to have. Like, I think Odell's route running is still pretty good right now. He's more of a over the top guy, I think, more than anything. Still, even though his speed isn't what it was in New York after all these injuries. But it seemed like Baltimore absolutely could use him. The Saints make sense for being back home, but they don't really have anyone to throw to him unless Drew Brees decides to suit up on Sundays again. Jameis being out with that torn ACL. So, look, Odell, I hate seeing a guy that still has talent.
And for what you say about the Saints, Michael Thomas being ruled out for the season today.
Oh, yeah, they're done.
Due to the same ankle. What was wrong with his? It's like a slinky at this point. Yeah. Whatever it is. Please continue.
Yeah, but I just want to see Odell, who still has talent, who's still a passionate player, who can still contribute to a team. I just want to see him go to a playoff team, right? Or I want to see him back in the playoffs really more than anything because, like, Odell is similar in mindset to Terrell Owens, I think, where he's this dude that will give you everything. If you were meeting him at that mark and you're pushing yourself as much as you possibly can, I think Odell will be right there for you and he will fight. I don't think that's a guy that gives up on a passionate team. So let Odell go somewhere that will use him. That's all I want to see.
You know what I'd love to see? Especially considering they just got rid of a low used receiver mutually after trying to trade him. They just released Deshaun Jackson.
The Rams.
Can you imagine the Rams adding OBJ to Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods?
Good God.
You think OBJ wouldn't get used there? 100% he would. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Odell Beckham Jr. That's what I need. And they just got $9 million back for Von Miller in that trade. They gave up the second and third pick, but they got $9 million back to make sure their cap number was okay. I'd love to see Odell Beckham Jr. go there and just shove it down Cleveland's throat. Yeah, I'm gonna be real with you, man.
Stafford's throwing for 6,000 this season if he gets Odell, then, because the one-on-one coverage he has for his guys is insane, and Cooper Kupp is putting up historic numbers.
Yes or no? Is Baker Mayfield on this team after his rookie contract?
So this is year 3 for him, right? So year 4 would be next year.
Year 3, yeah. So year 4 is next year. That would mean the year after that would be. They have to make a decision on his 5th year extension in year 4. Yeah. Like they have to know that. They have to know that going into the season.
I just think because of how hard it is to get quarterbacks in free agency. Good quarterbacks in free agency, I should say, and where they're probably going to be drafting, they're not going to be drafting inside of the top 18 any of these years. I still think they sign Baker, but they're going to do a deal that is a heavily incentivized. It'll be like Kaepernick's deal, I think, when he was with the 49ers, when he signed that massive, like $175 million deal, but the vast majority of it was not guaranteed. I think they're going to force Baker to do something like that. I still think he stays in Cleveland. They find a way to trade him to a team, but I think they still sign him. getting a franchise quarterback is so difficult. I think they have to keep him for that reason. It's just going to be down to the wire for that contract.
I agree that if he signs, it's going to have to be heavily incentivized. They're not going to give him all the guaranteed money. That's one of the reasons I don't think he resigns. I think he thinks that he deserves a bigger deal, and he tries to go somewhere else. The Cleveland Browns currently, I know I said one more question, but let me ask you this: the Cleveland Browns are currently 4-4. The rest of their schedule is as follows: at Cincinnati this weekend, at New England after that, the Lions, a home with the Ravens, including I think that game is the 28th on Thanksgiving. No, that's Sunday night after Thanksgiving. So it is a Sunday night game. So at Ravens, then versus Ravens in Cleveland. They've got Raiders, at Packers, at Steelers versus Bengals. They've got a gauntlet coming up. I'm going to give them, let's go win-loss here. I'm going to give them a split against the Bengals. That's 5-5. I'm going to say they lose in New England. That's 5-6. They beat the Lions. I'm going to be generous in saying they split with the Ravens. That's 7-7. They lose at home versus the Raiders. I'll give them a win, but they lose at Packers, and I think they lose at Steelers. Dude, that's under 500 for the season on a team that was the sexy pick to be in the Super Bowl. Like that was where people were picking them this year. If you're Cleveland, man, there's only one finger to point, man. There's only one finger to point. Their defense has not been awful. Their offensive line has not been awful. Their receivers are there. Chubb, you could say Chubb and Hunt were hurt, but Dearness Johnson just went out and put 120 yards down as a backup. Dude, everything is there for Baker Mayfield except Baker Mayfield.
I hear you. It's a hard part for me because Baker personifies the Cleveland Browns fan base as a quarterback more than I think any other quarterback probably has, right? And I think Baker handles himself really well in the media. Like even the presser he had about getting asked about the Odell stuff, like he's handled it really well. And so I think the Browns will still be above 500 because I think Stefanski's still calling, I think, for the most part, solid games. It's just they need Baker to be able to sling that rock a little bit down the field. And that defense is so good. Like that is the part that gives me hope for the Browns, is how good that defense essentially is. And they have 2 games against the Bengals, right? They have their next game and then the end of the season. The Bengals are, I think, again, I made the allusion to them previously, if they're the Milwaukee Bucks a couple of years ago, where like they are going to be a great team. I think they're outplaying how good they actually are right now. Burrow obviously is a stud, but I'm going to give the Browns like a +2 record by the end of the season, but it's going to be tough for them. For Baker and for Stefanski, there's going to be a lot of questions to be answered in these next couple of games.